All right, gentlemen, welcome back into another episode. Hey, we've had some great episodes recently, some great weeks. We've got a lot of great traction online, especially LinkedIn. We appreciate just everybody sharing.
Yeah.
It's been great to kind of give some insight to what you guys are doing and showing what you're doing, not just on the Hire Up podcast, but really it's been great for you guys to share some insight on how you're leading Team Wilson. It's a new era, new age. There's a lot of, obviously there's a whole bunch of things that have been introduced between AI and how companies are being run. And so I think it's been cool to kind of see just the community engagement on what the two of you guys are doing with ServPro Team Wilson, how we're leading it, how you're evolving, how you're changing. So I think that'll be good for today as we jump into today's topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you that don't know, we just recently expanded a new ServPro franchise in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where it all began, Brady.
Where it all began.
I guess as Auburn fans, we probably have to say Roll Tide. Hard to do, but I know for Adam it's not
I don't know
hard.
if I can do that yet.
Look,
Not yet.
For client basis, you may have to because you're in the middle.
Well,
of
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, but it is, all
They start
seriousness-
sending some work, I'll do it.
Hey, look, in all seriousness, before we jump into the topic, from us as a marketing team, we loved it. 'Cause
Yeah,
it gave
for sure.
It gave us a great story. Came
There you go.
full circle.
Yeah.
Back to where you guys originated from, came to Birmingham, and it's like you get to come back home. And that was a big deal. So how many years, real quick, we jump in, how many years from there when you guys started to back? What is that number, that time?
So we moved to Birmingham in actually January 1 of 2000 was the time from Tuscaloosa. So we're 26 years at the time of this.
26 years.
Yeah, I was actually explaining the story to somebody yesterday and just going back through it and trying to remember all that stuff. It's pretty surreal to be back.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Hey, you guys are expanding again. Hopefully, people listening, seeing y'all are giving some insight because obviously it's working. You're expanding territories and knowing you guys, you're not done yet. So we're going to continue. So
Probably
No, we actually just came back from a trip, location to be known at a later time.
y'all just
TBD.
You'll never stop. Never
TBD.
stop. But hey, that's what
growth does.
That's the whole point of this podcast.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is because
Growth.
growth is there. I was telling some guys this week. I was on a trip with some folks, and it was nice to be in a room with people who are genuinely more skilled than I am.
Yeah.
And I was trying to explain to somebody that if I continue to be in rooms where I'm the most skilled, I'm in the wrong room.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so it was nice to kind of sit and do that. And I think you guys are doing the same thing. Like, hey, how do we continue to improve? So,
Yep.
But that's a great segue into today's episode. We're talking a little bit about how do we navigate waves that come apart. Like you get hit with things you don't expect. How do you navigate through those? Benji, you were talking about us a little bit, just like anchoring in the storm. How do we do it? How do we hold when we're dealing with these things? So give us a little bit of insight. Let's get into today's episode, our topic. Share a little bit about where we're going today.
Yeah, think about, back in, I think it was 13 or 14, whatever it was, when the Titanic had been built, it set sail. And back in those days, they were reading everything from a compass, right? And they couldn't really, it's a humongous ship, largest ship ever in the history of the world, set sail and hits the iceberg, and the rest, is literally history. In today's world, I think there's a lot better technology out there that what is the big ship now, the Icon of the Seas or something like that? The thing is like, it's massive, just a massive ship. But they have so much technology now that they can actually make better decisions faster than when they did, over 100 years ago. And how do we navigate storms? Let's be real. Every business goes through a storm. Every business goes through. There's no way around it.
Yep.
To your point, you were talking about growth strategy and how does that help us as we grow, but at the same time, what challenges are going to come with that? It's just inevitable, right? So you have to be able to do that. Every leader faces storms. Think about this: economic pressure. You got market changes, industry changes. You've got staffing. You've got financial. All those things play a big part in how you navigate the storm and how you weather the storm, no pun intended. So the question is not, is a storm going to come? It's a matter of when it comes, and you got to be ready for it. Again, go back to the Titanic. If they could have made a decision to move a little bit faster and seen ahead what was coming, where would those people be today?
And just a few feet.
Yeah.
Like a few feet, I feel like would have changed the trajectory.
And I think, I could be wrong about this, we'd have to look at. I was just about to say we'd have to Google it, but do people Google? Yeah, anymore. Anyway, story for another
That's
day.
AI.
AI. But I think it was one of the best ships that had ever been built up to that time, and they thought that there was nothing, like if anything were to happen, that nothing would happen to it, and look what happened.
Now, if you like
so-
conspiracy theories, they do
Yeah,
say
I
that
was-
ship
yeah.
was. They always joke that that ship was actually changed with a ship that needed to sink.
Yeah.
with the insurance money. I always see that. So, but yeah,
It was interesting because, you got to look at the circumstance. Our pastor was telling a story about the Titanic recently, and one of the gentlemen, I forget the name of the guy on the ship, his whole thing was, what can I do to save other people from drowning, essentially. So he got a life vest. He did this multiple times, and he took the life vest and he would put it on other people and say, the Lord loves you. And he was still, till he went under, he was still sharing Christ with people. So you think about this, leaders, right? What is our anchor as a leader? Some people look at it as results. We have to look at results of our company, right? We got to be successful. What about our reputation? We say this all the time: control what we can control. Yeah. That's what we can control. We can control in our industry things that we can control: seeing people, visiting people, making sure we do a good job, making sure we get good Google reviews. We can control those things, right? There are things that we can't control. Because think about the way the industry shifts. You have insurance regulations. You have, in 2025, it's no secret, insurance companies had a record year.
That's right.
So how do you adapt to that, right? We have to look at ways. I remember back in 2008, Brady, when the housing crash happened, we were like, oh man, the world's going to fall upside down, And for the next 2 years, people couldn't. They were losing jobs. They were losing homes. They were all kinds of stuff. And we had to shift because we were 100% insurance heavy. And how do we create a program that can still help the customer? Luckily, ServPro corporate headquarters had seen what was coming about 5 years previous and started the national advertising campaign.
Yeah, that's right.
So we were able to educate customers. Look, if we can help you do this, clean up the water damage, clean up the fire damage, you still have to protect your property. We were able to see that ahead of time. Or they were able to see that ahead of time, and we were able to adapt to that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about an anchor, I'm really thinking about two things. Is one, when we think of an anchor as an organization, obviously from a spiritual standpoint, our anchor is the Lord and our relationship with Him, right? Because we've said it many times on the podcast that we don't really view ourselves as owners of this organization, really stewards and managers. Mm-hmm. But secondly to that, I think a good anchor for any organization, which we've talked about probably ad nauseum at this point, is mission, vision, values.
Yeah.
And so, because sometimes these storms are going to come, and could be good storms, could be bad storms, could be, whatever comes at you, but your mission, your vision, your purpose, your core values is really what anchors you in the decisions that you're going to have to make at some point in time, because you're going to get faced with, hey, this looks like a really good opportunity, but your values, your core values may say, yeah, you probably don't want to do that. Yeah. So that's where some of those things come in and help you. The third thing I would say is that all that does is help you make decisions faster.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you have to pivot. When the storm comes, sometimes you have to pivot. I'd have to read up on the Titanic story a little bit more, but I remember reading at some point in time, which I think is true. Somebody validate this for me, but they
AI that Adam.
yes. that yeah right now. No, I'm just kidding. I think that they got an inkling of something was coming.
Yeah,
and they didn't make the right decision. Right, at least as the story goes.
Right.
So had they made the right decision, then they just maybe could they have diverted what was there. And so sometimes as leaders, how often do we say we get faced with a challenging situation and we just say, you know what, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. Hey, let's don't worry about that. It's just going to get better. And a lot of times that's a good trait to have, because we're typically entrepreneurs are positive people, but sometimes we do have to look at reality. Yeah. And so I just think that when we're thinking about what is your anchor, we have to look at that.
Yeah, we got to be able to shift quickly under pressure, right? Because things, again, like you said, happen. But faith-based leadership is something that's deeper. It's our purpose. It's our calling. It's the truth. And if our anchor is temporary, honestly, our stability is going to be temporary too. So we have to think about that. Secondly, what is the leadership pressure? Okay. So do you panic when things come up?
It's easy to do.
Or do you lead effective?
Yeah.
I remember, let's be honest, in first quarter of 2025, we panicked
Yeah.
in our company, but at the same time, we started to lead more effective. So the question is, do you panic or do you lead with peace? Do you react or do you respond with intention? Because it's very easy to react, well, we're going to do boom, 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 and you forget the plan that you had set out ahead of time, the course that you've got set ahead. Do we isolate or do we communicate clearly? Isolation is a real thing, okay?
Yeah.
Or do we communicate to our teams more effective? Because our team's not looking for perfection, guys. They're looking for clarity. They're looking for consistency. They're looking for confidence. If the leader's confident, the team will be confident. I go back to the 90s when Michael Jordan was playing, and I think it was one of those 3-year stints. They had 2 of them we were big Bulls fans back in the day. And I think it was game 5, game 6 of one of the championship years. He had the flu. And he had a chance as the leader of the Chicago Bulls to go out and play or to not. And the team was going to figure out how they were going to do it. But man, they pumped him full of IVs. And of course, you could see it all over his face. You can go back and watch it on YouTube. He was drained. But he was consistent and he was confident even in the time of sickness, for his team. And that's what a good leader does. A good leader will stay confident and remain stable, remain confident, remain clear in the expectations. That's what can get you through a storm as a leader. So think about this. Pressure doesn't create character. It just reveals it. Like when we get under pressure, it's going to reveal who we really are. And our team's looking to us as leaders. If you're listening out there, they're looking to us as leaders to help keep things on track ahead. Don't just flip the script. It's very easy to flip the script, right?
Yeah.
It's very easy to change the plan. Stick to the plan. Doesn't mean you don't tweak it, but don't completely change it just to be reactive.
When you have to think too, I think sometimes it's not just about the teams when you have to pivot quickly. It's the client.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like this past week, we were filming. We had a plan. We knew what we were doing going in. But we got there, and their head of marketing wanted to change several things. And they had already planned the videos, what we were filming, and it sets the course for the week. So they had to sit down and, all right, we need to pivot. We need to do this. But we were able to create a new plan, film in a new location, do everything to do, and actually get something that looked better. But that client watched that process kind of happen out. Like, hey, we appreciate y'all pivoting. Like, because they admitted, like, hey, this is going to kind of train wreck what we had already had planned out. Because we pivot from doing this, and now we're doing all the way over here. So think about that too. Sometimes in those moments, even with clients, it's tough because you have to pivot. But I think those show that when things change, it's not just your team to see it, but your clients see it. And they see how important it is. That's one of the things we share with our leader that was leading our production this week. Like, man, the client saw what you were able to do. And then we as a team said, hey, we'll handle this. You handle client relations. Sit with the client. Sit with them. Talk through the process. You just tell us what needs to be done. Let's get it set up so it's ready to go. Mm-hmm. So they're watching this whole process kind of happen. So that's why I say sometimes I think it's important not just for you internally, but externally, because now a client sees that you can change things. Like, all right, this is a team that knows how to handle things.
Yeah.
And it's a situation that the client calls and they are like, hey, I know this. But I think sometimes too, you have to think about how you react, how you handle those.
Yep.
It could be the difference on selling another job, doing more work, or having like a loyal, lifelong client that says, hey, I want to partner with you guys because y'all handle it correctly.
That's right.
Yeah. So think about this. How do we lead our team through the storm, right? To your point, you're in pressure. You react to it. You got to make adjustments to it. But how do we lead our team through that storm? It may not be a storm like you're going to go under or anything like that. But here's a few practical ways. Communicate clearly and often, all right? Our silence, when we go silent, it creates fear and uncertainty in the team as a leader, as our teammates. But if we stay clear, clarity builds trust with our team. They understand that, hey, we've got this. We've got your back. We're going to take care of you. Be patient with the process. We'll get through this. Simplify the mission. I couldn't say this enough because this year our theme is acceleration through simplification.
Yep.
What can we do to simplify the process?
Yeah.
Again, we cannot control what's going on in the insurance industry. What we can control is figuring out ways as a business. Yeah, you want revenue, but you want profitability. Okay, as a company, profitability fuels growth. So how can we keep it simple for our team? Because things do get chaotic, right? Things get complex. We've even talked about this. I think sometimes we as leaders make it too complex for our people, right? Mm-hmm. It's just another checkbox. It's another thing. It's another Band-Aid. Doesn't mean those things don't need to happen, but how can we think through the entire process and go, is this really necessary for this? Like, let's make it easier, simplify it for our team. People want things to be simple. At the end of the game, in a game of basketball, think about this literally. You have a basketball, you dribble, you pass, you shoot, you rebound. You dribble, you pass, you shoot, you rebound. It's that simple, but there's a lot of skill that goes with that, right? I remember recently we were on a plane, and I looked up to a buddy of mine. I was like, hey, there's Caden Boozer. Caden Boozer, yeah, it's the guy that played for Duke, you know?
Yeah.
And he's the one at the end of the we're going to the national championship game. Had he held on to that ball for another second and not thrown it try to go over the two UConn guys to a wide open guy down the court, that Duke would have gone on to probably win the national championship. Note to self, knock, knock, knock. I had Duke winning the national championship. Totally ruined my bracket. That's okay. But anyway,
you're doing well.
You know, that guy, Caden Boozer, people, man, they've probably given him a lot of flack. He's a 19-year-old student. But people expect so much in a chaotic situation. It can get complex. Focus on what matters, right? What matters is he is a kid that is getting a degree or going to go to the next level in basketball. Mistakes happen. You know, don't beat the kid up for something like that.
Benji, when you talk about simple, you know, we just went through this exercise as a leadership team in our last quarterly offsite. I'm going to try to remember the acronym. But again, yes, our theme this year is acceleration through simplification. And Adam, you know, we love acronyms.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
As somebody that does marketing for you guys, I know you love acronyms.
Well, here's you a new one. Okay.
Uh-oh.
So and we actually took the word simple and we broke it out, and we as a team actually rated like how are we doing in these areas. So the S stood for streamline. How are we actually streamlining the things in our organization? We rated 1 to 5. The I stood for integrate. How well are we integrating the systems that we currently have? And does everybody know how that's holding together? The M stands for how do we measure it? You know, if it's not worth measuring, it's not worth managing. The P is prioritize. How do we take the things that we're doing? Are we actually focused on the things that truly matter? Are we prioritizing those? Which leads into L, which is leverage. Are we actually leveraging those priorities so that the last E, which is execute, and that's what it all comes down to, is how do we simplify this thing so that we can determine what those high-value priorities are so that we can go execute. I mean, when and kind of bringing it back home for this, is when those storms come, we live in the chaos, we tend to panic, you know, but when we go back and say, okay, let's refocus. You know, sometimes, and John Maxwell says this, you know, the first definition of a leader is to define reality.
Yep.
So what is the reality? Okay. And then how do we make it simple? Let's go back to the plan. Let's go back to the anchor. Let's pray through it, right? Let's seek the Lord's guidance on it and then move towards execution. Because a lot of times what happens when those storms come, we try to do everything.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Let's just spaghetti on the wall and let's fix this and let's fix that and let's fix that. And it just doesn't work that
Could
way.
you imagine a coach doing that at halftime of a game? Like the team is down by 2 points or 4 points or whatever, and they just start, okay, we're going to fix this. But they do. They bring it back in.
And it
keep
confuses the players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep the game plan in mind.
Yeah.
Remember, as a leader, to be visible. Your presence matters.
Yeah.
Right? Your presence matters. Even if we don't have all the answers, your presence matters.
Yeah.
They're looking to us as leaders to be there for them. Yeah. Reinforce what our purpose is. Remind our team daily their work matters, because it does, especially in the tough seasons. You know, I was talking to one of our executives actually this morning, and he's like, you know, man, our revenue is down for this month, But we got more jobs and you know what to do with. But they're just different size jobs, right? We can control getting the phone to ring. We cannot control the size of the project. And that's what we got to remember. So remind the team that their work matters. In uncertain times, leaders become the weather system that their team feels. So if we look at it and as a leader, our team is looking to us to weather through the storm on their behalf, but keep them accountable through the process.
Yeah, we were talking through on the way home yesterday. We were talking through asking our guy that kind of runs everything, like, how'd you feel this week with this company? Because this company of his, like, this is his baby. Like, this is a big company that partners with him. They're fully remote, so they bring them in, they do the video.
Probably about the only time they get teamwork.
They do. So they do it once a year. It's an annual retreat. So we capture it, and this is the one time their leadership is in the same room a lot.
Yeah.
And so you have to capture these moments culturally. They actually had customers come in, share what was not working, what was working. And so as we're working through those, we talked through some of that. And one of the things one of our guys brought up is like, hey, the way that you handled all of this stress, he said, because they were throwing some things at us that you're like, they were they're not in the industry when it comes to video. So like, why can't you just do this? Or why can't you do that? And that
sounds like a question I would ask.
It's 100% a question you would ask. And
why can't we do it, Adam?
Why can't we do it? Because there are limitations to things that you can really do. But one of the things, one of our guys here, he's like, the way that you handled the client when they asked the questions, you never deviated, you never showed frustration. Even in our minds as creatives, like between the three of us, like, why would you even ask that? But they're not in that world, so they don't know. But he said, what I think was very valuable is that even in the moments when something was stated or asked, when we're having to reshift, there was such a control and there was such a calm, like, all right, this is why we can't.
Yeah.
This is what we can do. So there was this is why we can't, here's a solution. And so he said, I felt like that speaks volumes to a client or you're internally, is that how do you handle those things when you get those questions because you may work in that world more. And he just shared how important he thinks that was. And again, builds loyalty.
Yeah, for sure.
Both internally and externally, because they're seeing how you navigate these things that come about.
Yeah.
That's good.
So here's a question, leaders, we ask ourselves. Am I making this decision out of fear or am I making it out of faith? Okay. Fear leads to this short-term thinking, defensive decision-making. We're all guilty of that, and cutting corners. I mean, let's be honest. If we can cut corners from time to time, but faith leads to long-term clarity. It leads to integrity-driven decisions, okay, doing things right, and then the courage to move forward if we operate in faith. So as we wrap up, just a few takeaways, okay? Storms are a part of our leadership journey. Again, we've talked about, you guys have heard us talk about it several times. We've been through storms, even a large franchisee system. We go through storms, and it's how we react to that. Your anchor determines how you respond. Yeah. What does that anchor look like in your life, in your leadership team? Your team takes cues from your posture, not just your words, because you can say things, but how you are confident in what you're talking about and you're communicating clearly, because calm leaders create confident teams. So listeners, just a few things to think about. What currently feels unstable in your business? Question to ask. Maybe you ask your leadership team that. What are you anchored to right now? What is your anchor? And what would it look like to lead with faith even this week? Because you can't control the storm, but you can choose and control your anchor.